Production.
Tyson Platinum Beat Producer.
Malachi, this guy is so scared that he goes, listen how ridiculous this guy is. He goes to Kobe's locker room, because I saw him. Kobe's locker room was right next to ours. He goes in there and takes pictures with this guy. And he's told me that he's gonna knock my son out. That's ridiculous, bro.
Hey, what's going on, everybody? And welcome to another episode of The Final Bell, presented by DAZN Boxing Talk. I'm your boy, Twine B. Liberty. As usual, I got my boy BC Left Hook with me. But before you start the show, we want to get off into something serious. We had two fallen comrades from the pugilist community pass away this past week. One yesterday being a very legendary trainer in the sport, brother Naazim Richardson out of Philly. A lot of love in the boxing community. Another one from Texas as far as the up-and-coming prospect in Trevelle, Black Magic Maison, signed with Golden Boy Promotions, passed away in the car accident. So, I mean, we want to definitely dedicate this show to both of our fallen soldiers. And with that, we'll go ahead and kick it off. Let me go ahead and kick it off to my boy BC. Give us some of your thoughts as far as what you'll remember about Brother Nas, man.
I was thinking about that before the show, like what it is the most that I remember him for. I think it's his honesty in the corner and the way he would protect his fighters from themselves. I highly respected him for that. His knowledge and understanding of the craft is without question. But I really believe he was a guy who really cared about his fighters and their future. If you pay attention to some of the things that he said in the corner, he was straight up honest with Shane, and every fighter that he coached in that corner, and highly respected and is going to be highly missed.
Yeah, man, just piggybacking off you, man. Like, I honestly didn't believe it when I first read it yesterday morning. I'm friends with one of his sons, Tiger Allen. And, like, when I saw the post, I was like, nah, like, I don't believe that, man. Like, I couldn't believe it. But one of the things I'll actually remember about him is, we're living in a time in, the boxing in our country, at least, where, trainers are looked at differently. There's a saying that there's no more teachers in boxing right now, with this current generation. And I feel like Brother Naazim definitely fit that mold as far as being a teacher. He trained highly accomplished champions such as B-Hop, Steve Cunningham. So, he definitely has the accolades that go along with it. Everybody had nothing but good things to say about him, and definitely being a very knowledgeable mind in the sport, always willing to chop it up about boxing with people, no short conversations with him when it came to boxing, so I'll definitely miss those things about him. Definitely his honesty. He had a way with words, swim without getting wet. You can't come with that test because his eraser's a little different, like he definitely had a way with words.
Yeah.
Anything you want to follow with as far as, any other thoughts you had about Brother Nas and, just his contribution to the sport?
Yeah, I think his contribution for those who follow the sport and know who he was goes without, saying. And I just feel compassion for his family and friends, and and just as you stated, man, it's losing another teacher, a guy who really understood the art of teaching pugilism, hit and don't be hit. And he's definitely gonna be missed. And so once again, condolences to his friends and family from the Danger Zone Boxing Talk family. Now, moving on from sad news to either bizarre news or exciting news, depending on how you view it. There was a fight that is going to take place September the 12th. I'm hesitant to call it a fight. I guess it's more it's exhibition. between 54-year-old Mike Tyson and 51-year-old Roy Jones Jr. Now, when the fight was first announced, both camps who have rabid followers began to take sides. Of course, most of the people sided saying Tyson was going to destroy Roy. I was one of those people that actually favored Tyson probably by knockout when I first heard it. But then when I got to really thinking it through from a pugilistic standpoint, Roy's been more active. He's probably in better shape. I just don't know if he could take one of them punches. But if it went past 3 rounds, where would we see Mike at in that point? But then weird news began to drop. I believe first was this Yahoo article by Kevin Ayalo, where he talked about how they're not going for the KO. I believe that they had spoken with the California Athletic Commissioner. They're going to wear 12-ounce gloves. There was a report that if one of them gets cut, that the fight's going to be stopped. So my question to you, bro, is do you think that we're going to see anything other than a glorified sparring session between two 50-year-olds? Or are we going to get the fight that both Tyson and Roy seem to be wanting to sell us, which is they're going to get it?
Honestly, I think we're going to get a straight up exhibition. That's the way these things roll. We've seen Julio Cesar Chavez and Jorge Arce do one, what I believe last year. So it was pretty light work. Of course, they wore headgear, so I was a little bit concerned. When I spoke with you, saying there wouldn't be any headgear involved, but of course they're using 12-ounce gloves. I watched Mike Tyson actually announce this on First Take, and he was saying, it was kind of funny because he's like, I only go one full speed, so Roy's just gonna have to deal with it. But it seems like the California State Athletic Commission has kind of nipped that shit in the bud, saying, nah, man, this is exhibition, y'all ain't pros right now, so I think they did a good job of nipping that in the bud, because I'm like, I don't want to see either of these guys get hurt, and they don't have anything to prove right now. I am excited that it's bringing, casual fans out as far as talking about boxing. A lot of people haven't had a lot to say as far as on the casual side or even talking about the sport, because we've been absent of all of that stuff until recently. So I've been happy to see that, but I kind of want them to reel it in and understand what this is. This isn't the fight that you think is going to be. It's not like that. I've seen people posting memes like the Ivan Drago killing Apollo Creed. If he dies, he dies. I'm like, come on, dog. You're doing too much now. So, I just want people to rein in on that and, have realistic expectations. These guys are in their 50s, both well accomplished. They don't need to be out there trying to kill each other.
Agreed, and I'm guilty. I did put up one of the memes of the from Rocky 3, or no, I guess it's Rocky 4. So I'll plead guilty to that. Now, also moving on to our next topic, we're going to talk about last night's DAZN card. First, we're going to start off with a little highlight of a 7-second fight that if you blinked, you missed. So if you guys didn't get to see it last night, here's a little highlight of a fight that lasted all of 7 seconds.
Atkins reluctant to come out of her corner. Ada left up 1, 2, 3, 4. It was Lamb versus Lion. It is over. One of the quickest knockouts in women's boxing history. You witnessed it live here on DAZN.
Do you believe that, bro? What in the world? No, and I'm not trying to take anything away from Estrada. Estrada's a beast. Definitely deserves a title shot. Estrada is a beast. But what in the world was Atkins people thinking? What you have. And this girl has tried MMA and the results have been just as brutal. So, if you're a trainer, the people that's working with this woman now, she had a record of 5-0, I think, with 4 knockouts. But she had all her opponents were either debut fighters or fighters with, I think the other one was 0-2. You know what I mean? like I'm wondering like how bad were the females that she beat? Like because she appeared beat before the fight ever started. Did you see the way she was walking to the ring? She looked like she was scared to death. She looked timid coming out of the corner. This girl was nowhere near ready to face a monster like Estrada.
I mean, if Ingram was on here, if we had our boy Ingram from the UK on here, he'd be screaming his head off at Eddie Hearn right now. So that's really ridiculous. I just don't know what to say. I saw it and I was just like, man, let me go. I'm not watching the rest of this card until that's how I felt, initially. I just thought it was pretty bad that they set up such a mismatch like that. And this is for a paid service with DAZN, so I'm kind of upset about that. But other than that, she did her thing, what she was supposed to do. I guess considering the opponent selection, people have been out of the ring and, they're getting a lot of light touches for the most part right now. So props to her.
Agree. I just don't know what I would like to ask. I would like to ask some because I know there's some trainers on that follow our page and on my friends list and on your friends list. I would just like to ask a trainer and have a trainer answer me this. When is it do you tell someone like a Miranda Adkins, look, this isn't for you, whether it be MMA or boxing, like this isn't for you. And I think that maybe that ought to be told to the girl she beat is because she just did not look. I don't know, man. Maybe I'm just being too critical, and because it is the monster that is Estrada, but that girl didn't look anywhere near ready to fight a fighter with more than 3 fights, let alone a world title contender.
Definitely agree with you as far as she looked stuck as soon as she came out. She didn't look right. I wonder how long she's actually been involved as far as training. Is there such way to improve? Right now.
Well, it can't get any worse than getting knocked out in 7 seconds. So, like, there's room for tons of improvement. I don't want to bash because I respect everybody who steps through the ropes for doing that because it takes a certain pair of quote unquote nuts to get up in there and fight. But there's no excuse for setting up a match like that. Now, moving on to the main event, we did see Vergil Ortiz Jr. Take on Samuel Vargas. Samuel was a game opponent, rough. I'm going to show a quick highlight of that fight.
Scheduled for 12, but it didn't last a full 7.
No, it didn't last a full 7, so there was a moral victory there by Vargas. But you got to give credit, a lot of credit to Samuel Vargas, not only for his toughness and determination, but he wanted to continue. But the onslaught was just too heavy. It was too punishing by Ortiz. He was getting the angles, power punching. Vargas had no place to hide. He resorted to tackling because he had no place to hide. Holding on, looking for the right big shots. But Ortiz kept his poise, his composure, looking for big shots. In the end, he ended up getting them with speed and not power. All these shots aren't power shots. They're more fast shots that were trying to get the attention of Vargas right there. Just keep him hurt. And finally, Jack Reese did what he had to do and stop the fight.
Junior! 58 power punches for Ortiz Jr. in that 7th round.
So as we've seen, Ortiz won, I believe, in the 7th round by TKO. I was very impressed with what I've seen. What impressed you about that performance, Twine, if anything?
I'll say what impressed me is his jab is a lot better than I've seen in recent fights. It was real snappy. Put his punches together well. I definitely liked him. I liked seeing his the way he put his combinations together. Uh, I think it was I try not to do a comparison because we've seen Vargas in there against a couple of other guys. So you that's kind of way you're gauging, I guess, Ortiz's ceiling right now, or at least where he's at. Because of Vargas has been in the ring against guys like Spence, Khan and Danny Garcia already. So I don't want to put too much weight on that. But Ortiz had to work a little bit in there, and that comes with Vargas's experience. He was a real game competitor. He did some nice things in there himself, such as going to the body of Ortiz. So I mean, those are things I kind of want to see how Ortiz improves on moving forward. I didn't see enough body work from Ortiz himself. That's another thing I like to see from him, especially being a Robert Garcia fighter. Those guys are notorious for going to the body. And so I didn't see enough of that from him last night, but it was ultimately a good performance from him. I definitely think this guy's the limit for him, but I have certain questions as well, and I guess we could come back to that after you give your assessment.
Yeah, I agree with some of the things you're saying. I thought that I believe he was out of the ring for 200 days.
Yeah.
I didn't see a lot of what, quote unquote ring rust. That's one of the things that very few things maybe that I agreed with Sergio Martinez Sergio in his commentary was when he said that power punchers don't get affected as much by ring rust as, say, a fighter who depends on rhythm and timing. But I thought he looked good. I thought he came out in the 7th round. It was something that I wish I could have asked during the Golden Boy Roundtable, which, again, I want to shout out to Supreme Boxing. If you're not following Supreme Boxing here on Facebook, head over and follow Supreme Boxing. I want to shout out to Stacks over there for getting me on that panel. And that was one of the things I wish I could have asked him, because I don't think he was pleased with the way he ended the 6th round. If you go back and watch the way that 6th round ended, when he came out in the 7th, it looked like he had a determination to get rid of homie. So speaking of the roundtable, in the roundtable at the end of the fight, he had spoke about potential matchups. One fighter in particular that Cynthia Conte had asked him about was Ugas. And he said that was a fight, I'm going to paraphrase, that was a fight he would love to have. That to him, Ugas is one of those top 4 or 5 guys right along with the champions in the division. He'd love to have that fight. Is that a fight you would like to see him have?
I definitely think it's a fight he could more than a worthy opponent for him at this state, but I wouldn't want to see him fighting the Ugas right now. I mean, Ugas has other things on his horizons. So, I mean, I don't think it's a fight they could even pull off, which is why I'm not really thinking about it. But there are a couple other guys that I guess I would rather see him in, like another two more step ups, and then I could see him like cracking the top 5 like a Ugas, after that. Like I'd like to see him against a Lipinets type or, something like that. What's the guy's name? I can't pronounce it. Eastern.
Yeah, you having some you're having some sound issues.
Okay. Let me know. Hold on real quick.
Bro, yeah, your mic's going.
Okay, how am I now? Any better?
Went out, bro.
It's still going out?
Bro.
Wow.
To the fight. Yeah, you're still going in and out, bro.
All right, go ahead and take over. I'm gonna try and get back on and see if we can get this thing going right.
You have to unplug.
Go ahead.
So I think you're better now. I think he went out. He'll be right back. Anyway, for during the roundtable, he was also asked about some other contenders that he would like to face. he brought up Danny Garcia and Keith Thurman. Keith Thurman is a guy, he said that styles make fights, and he believes that they're two contrasting styles would make for a great fight. I don't know if you heard, but when you were gone, I was talking about the other contenders that were mentioned and that he mentioned, and that was Danny Garcia and Keith Thurman. So I don't believe that Ortiz Jr. is willing to wait, bro. I think he's wanting to get one of these contenders in the ring, because when they asked him about when they envisioned getting in a world title, he said near the end of 2021 or 2022. So I think that maybe one more fight, a setup fight, and then I really think you're going to see Ortiz aim for, a Danny Garcia or, a Thurman or Ugas.
Well, I mean, let me know how my sound is first before I go in.
Yeah, you're great.
Okay. I honestly don't see any of those fights happening, Doug. I mean, we know the welterweight division is kind of stacked as far as people waiting in line. Spence has 2 belts to defend, so we got the Danny Garcia potential fight for Spence. He's going to have to defend his IBF against whoever they crown interim, because, I think they're setting up an IBF interim championship for that. Terrence Crawford, of course, and then you got Manny Pacquiao. I don't see him landing fights with any of those guys. It's not really realistic to me to see him in there against any of the champs right now. And, I had a discussion last night to where I actually said, I don't think we see Ortiz win a belt at 147 against any of those guys. Like, I think he'll actually move up to 154 before we see him win the championship. He struggled in weight against who was it that he fought? I can't think of his name. Not the most recent fight. I'll look it up real fast, but he struggled making weight in that fight. And then even his opponent last night, and Samuel Vargas said, he looked pretty bad at the weigh-in as far as making he's a big kid, he's bigger than Errol, he's 5'10", and he's only 22. So I mean, he's getting his man body now. So I don't see him actually winning a championship at 147 without struggling and possibly hurting himself to make the weight the way he's growing right now. He has a pretty big frame. So, I mean, I think that's the real issue. And then, another thing, he mentioned he was having problems with his hands, which I could understand the way he pounded on Vargas last night. But, I mean, that's definitely something you want to – whenever a boxer talks about those kind of things, I kind of keep it in the back of my head. I want to pay more attention to it and see how that goes on the line, because he depends a lot on his power. He's high input or high output. And, he puts a lot of oomph on his punches, a lot of torque on his punches. So looking forward, I mean, I'm going to pay attention to things like that as far as his weight, the hand issues. But, to piggyback off of your comment, I don't see him getting the fight with any of those big guys or anybody that's a champion. And with the weight thing, it kind of concerns me. I don't think we'll see him win a title at 147. Let me get your question on this. There's another interesting name out there that, I mean, people might be interested in seeing him against 2 highly rated prospects at 147. Jerron Buzinus. He's looking for somebody to step up against. He can't get a step-up fight the way Ortiz has. Nobody wants to touch him. So what do you think about those two coming together at this time in their careers, or is this something you think they should marinate?
I think it's something that should marinate. I think it's a great matchup. Don't get me wrong, but I don't want to see because in the climate we're in and the era we're in, you lose a fight, suddenly you are nothing, and I don't want to see one of these young guys derail that early. So, but definitely, if say one of them will win a belt, that'd be a great title fight. But I would definitely let it marinate. Now, before we move to our next topic, that was actually a topic that Ortiz Jr. addressed in the roundtable. It was a question he was asked about explicitly. You're a big guy. Don't see you hanging around this division for long. And now, according to him, he has long-term plans at 147. He can make the weight, and he feels great currently making the weight. So take that for what that's worth. That's what he said during the round table. Now moving on, there was also what was that top ranked card? It was the last fight in the bubble between Oscar Valdez and Jayson Velez. I got some highlights of that. I'm gonna play it, and then I'm gonna come back and we'll talk a little bit about what we thought about it and where we see him versus Vergil.
Exactly.
Run to the roar.
But you have Ted.
He goes down that time with a short left hook on the inside. He's been wide open, stepping to the inside for the last couple rounds.
6, 7. He's exhausted. 8.
Yeah, está bien. Okay, I'll give you a chance.
Second time he's been down from a left hook. Let's see if he can survive these last 45 seconds. Off balance again. And that will do it. It's going to be a 10th round TKO.
So that's how it ended. What do you think of the fight? And after you answer what you think about the fight, tell me what you think about his prospect versus Miguel Vergil. And I'll jump in because I'm pretty sure I'm going to agree with you how you felt about the fight, and then I'll give my opinion about Vergil and him as a matchup.
I mean, I was late tuning in to the fight, and of course, I pay attention to comments in the groups. I'm in, we're all in several boxing groups.
Mm-hmm.
I started late, and the comments I'm seeing is looking like Oscar Valdez is stinking up the joint. He's starting off sluggish and slow, which is, it's pretty normal from him actually. So I tuned in as soon as I possibly could, and the fight is finally swinging a little bit towards his way after round 3, around 4. It starts swinging his way a little bit more. But I think he definitely got some good rounds in against Velez. He's an ex-champion and has been in against a lot of people. So, I mean, it was a good rounds, but, he got the stoppage that I think he should have got. He went out and he handled business at the end of the day as far as stopping his opponent. So, I mean, I can never knock somebody for that. I'm not seeing the improvement with Chepo that I was expecting. And we're going on, 4 or 5 fights in with the Chepo Reynoso?
Mm-hmm.
And, I'm not seeing any improvements in this game. So which leads me to my next point. You wanted to ask about what I thought about his prospects against Vergil. Vergil finna light his ass up, man. That's as easily as I could put it. I don't like his prospects against him. It's a bad fight for him because Valdez already has a habit of getting in the firefights, and I don't think that's something he should necessarily do against Vergil, who's a bigger fighter. A lot of people mention things as far as Vergil. He's been stopped in his career, but which is early on. But I mean, are we saying that that's all Valdez has is a puncher's chance? Because I don't see him keeping Vergil off of him, even if he tries to box him. I don't see him keeping Vergil off of him at all. And getting into a firefight against Vergil, who's been in against guys like Vargas, Francisco Vargas, who are actually bigger already than Valdez, and are pretty strong punchers. I don't see Valdez being able to sustain that kind of energy or pace for 12 rounds. But it's definitely going to be the toe-to-toe action we like to see between Mexican or Hispanic fighters.
I agree. I for the life of me, people treat Jayson like he's just a bum. I'm not arguing that Jayson's one of the great pugilists of our time, or that he's even, but he is a solid guy. So, but I think that the problem with a lot of people coming into the fight was they had this expectation of he's going to go out there and get rid of Jayson, and and I didn't have that. I thought, this is going to be competitive, especially seeing what we had seen out of Valdez prior. And he did get him out of there. I believe it was the 7th round. And he looked good doing it. But watching that, I don't see him getting anything other than stopped versus Vergil. I think Vergil walks through him. I mean, it might be competitive for a few rounds, but I don't know, bro. If I'm his people, I might consider keeping him away from Vergil and turning that fight down, and no matter how it looks, because you got a guy is still he's still undefeated. So in this era, that carries everything. In 2 or 3, 4 years down the road, people will forget that you ducked Miguel Vergil today, and I might actually consider ducking him today. You know what I mean? Just my opinion.
But just to continue on with that, I mean, Valdez has slided past a couple of guys already. You know, if they pass this one up, what else is left for them at 130? You know, they're not going to put him in there against Shakur. So I kind of feel like Bob is kind of realizing he's, as far as Valdez, he might be peaking. You know, as far as his potential, especially being with Chepo for 5 fights already, or at least 4 fights. I think this might have been his 4th fight under Chepo. Yeah. Did not see the improvements, and to see him still struggling, you know, I don't know. I kind of feel like Bob is might be ready to cut his losses, you know, with Valdez, because he has a lot more up and coming guys. You know, Shakur is going to be at 130, and I'm pretty sure he wants Shakur to get the limelight at that weight.
Agreed. All right, we'll move on to our next topic. Earlier in the week or the middle of the week when PBC dropped their announcement for cards, there you see it on the screen. Quite a slate. I got to tell you, I really like a lot of these main events, and I like them a lot more than I like the top rank main events. No knock against the top rank, even though I do like these main events more. What will be interested to see is if COVID affects these cards as much as they did the top rank cards, because top rank did lose some of their fights, and that affected those cards, you know, on how they look. Some of the fights that weren't meant to be, I guess, main event cards, headliners were thrust into that position. Now, looking at this card real fast for me, the 2 that I'm most interested in, well, there's 3 of them. I'm really glad to see Cool Boy Steph August 1st. That's a good fight for him. I'm going to expect him to win that. And then I like the Davis and Santa Cruz fight, October 24th. And, of course, the Charlo Deverchenko, that boy's a dog. That's going to be an interesting fight for me. Looking at this card, what are the fights, at least, because I haven't looked at the undercards. I don't know if you have, but looking at the main events, I love these slate of fights.
I'm actually pretty excited about these cards that Showtime is bringing us. Thanks to Uncle Al, he ain't slipping. You know, like you said, a lot of the top ranked cards they felt kind of weak for me. You know, but you know, like I said, these are their first fights in months, you know, with the COVID and everything happening. They couldn't plan for anything big, you know, as far as funding, you know, without crowds and stuff like that for a lot of their top fighters. So, you know, we got what we could with as far as the top ranked cards. But I'm loving this Showtime series, because Showtime actually had a down year last year as far as their cards and their output. You know, Fox was pretty much getting most of the spotlight as far as PBC fighters last year. So I'm excited to see a couple of these things. I like Lubin versus Gasha. I like Charlo versus Derry. I definitely love Charlo versus Rosario. I mean, the fight that I think people are sleeping on is Lipinets versus Abdukharov. That one is going to be real live, man. They're not big names, you know, of course, being Eastern Euro, but that fight is going to be all action. And of course, another one I like is that one that's concluding on December 12th. Another one that people are sleeping on, Nordine Ubali versus Nonito Donaire. That's definitely going to be a closer fight than people are expecting. I honestly, you know, right now, I think Donaire has enough left in him to add another championship to his legacy and solidify his Hall of Fame status with this one.
I was going to ask you about that, because I'm thinking, after the way we saw him fight against Monster, I'm thinking he might meet Nordine. As you know, I'm not super high on Nordine. I don't know if we had talked about that. I think we had. I'm not super high on him. If out of all the champions in that division, he would probably be the one I would probably go after most. But Do you think that we see him raise his hand and get another title?
Yeah, I actually do see him beat Ubali. I think Ubali went against Rashid Warren, who's not a big puncher, and was put down, I believe, twice in the first round. And I mean, Donaire actually has a lot of power at that weight, as far as that weight class, at bantamweight. You know, it's not him trying to fight bigger guys at 126 or anything like that. So I mean, I definitely think we could see Donaire's hand raised, and I would pick him as the early favorite, in my opinion. Like, I've never been super impressed with Ubali. Of course, he has the strong amateur pedigree, and you know he's held the title for at least the last year or so in that weight class as far as the WBC belt. But I mean, I think Donaire could actually win this. I'm surprised. I'm not even sure how Showtime picked this fight. I didn't know Ubali was actually signed to Woodall. So I mean, I'm surprised we're getting to see this on Showtime. But I mean, it is definitely going to be a good fight, and I expect Donaire to actually win.
Okay, I think I'm leaning towards Donaire as well. All right, and moving on, there was a report that came out earlier this week, and it was I've seen the article on CBS.com. It was stating that the lawyer for Canelo Alvarez says team waiting to find out if DAZN is going to live up to its obligations. There's been some issues going on because what it is Canelo and his team are saying they were signed for a set amount per fight. DAZN's asking that Canelo take a pay cut, just like every other fighter during this pandemic has had to take a pay cut. But every other fighter isn't Canelo Alvarez. So where do you stand with this? To me, if it's in the contract, there's nothing DAZN can do. They better pay him.
I'm definitely in agreement with you there. Even Bob said as far as his big bill fighters, like he's not going to ask them for pay cuts. Like there's no way you could ask somebody of that caliber to cut off their income stream, especially when it's already contracted. So, I mean, I hope DAZN lives up to their obligations. And, you know, I guess the hard time is fine. They're trying to pick the opponents for Canelo at the same time, but these guys that want to fight Canelo want to be paid. You know, like the latest talks I've heard was Callum Smith was approved by DAZN. The initial offer was $5 million for Callum Smith, and they want $6 million. So
that's what I heard.
You know, I'm just wondering how that's all going to play out.
Callum got to take it, bro. I'm sorry, Callum got to take it because that's like me and Mike Mary were talking. That's life changing money. That's huge money, especially during the pandemic with no fans. You know what I mean? And you don't know if you're going to get that Canelo call again. Canelo can easily say, okay, whatever, I'm not fighting you. So you have to go fight Smith again, who most people believe beat you. You take a huge chance of losing and then missing out on that Canelo money, and you damn sure would have wished you took it if you lose to Smith in a rematch.
I mean, it's kind of putting Callum on the spot because he's a guy that's been saying he wants the bigger fights. You can't get no bigger than this to prove yourself on a bigger stage than this. He's got to take it. You know, I don't like the other options that were put out there. Of course, they weren't approved by DAZN. I'm assuming with John Ryder, you know, his name was even thrown out there. You know, the guy who pushed Smith to the limits. Everybody thought he beat him. Okay. Callum take this fight. Callum's got to take this fight. You know, he can't be all talk anymore. You know, the jury.
It was John Ryder. I said someone else, but it was John Ryder. My bad, man.
Yeah. But Callum's definitely got to take this fight, man. Like he can't dodge this one.
Yeah, he definitely got to take that fight. So we're in agreement on that. I think when we're in agreement on DAZN got to pay Canelo if it's in the contract, and you told this man this is the set amount of money you're going to get for these 11 fights per fight. You got to pay the dude. I don't, you know, pandemic or no pandemic. If he stands. Do what?
They got the money, man, because they just bought like some big German soccer league for like $4 billion, like recently. So like the try and stifle Canelo for even a couple million after throwing that kind of money around, like, come on, bro. Like, get it signed, get the money out there, you know.
I agree. All right, no. So moving on to our next topic, news came out that there were negotiations underway between Devin Haney, the regular WBC champion at 135, and Yuriorkis or Gamboa. Now Gamboa is coming off a loss, a stoppage loss, 12-round TKO to Tank. And Devin Haney coming off a win himself. This isn't a fight I'm really interested in. I don't know about you. I'm not really interested in this fight for Devin Haney. What is there to prove in this fight for Devin if he beats Gamboa at this stage in Gamboa's career?
I mean, honestly, it would be the biggest win of his career still, even though it's an over-the-hill Gamboa. I mean, he doesn't have anybody bigger on his resume. So, I mean, it definitely will become a filler for him. I mean, I thought it was pretty funny when I saw, because there's pictures that was floating around as far as Devin Haney when he's like 6 or 7 years old. Like, he's young as hell.
Yeah, I seen that.
So I thought that was pretty funny. Like, he's actually going to take on Yuriorkis right now. But I don't necessarily like the fight, but I'm not mad at it for Haney's sake because he doesn't have any names on his resume. You know, like, I don't see Gamboa pushing him or testing him or anything like that, but he needs a filler. You know, he needs a name on his resume, even as the WBC regular champion right now. You know, a lot of people don't think he earned it, of course, because of the whole franchise thing, but I would approve of this fight simply for that reason. He needs a name filler on his resume right now, and I think Yuriorkis is good enough to fill that for the time moment until he could get a bigger fight at 135.
Agreed. Okay. The reason I say that I don't know what it does for him at this point in his career is because I believe he dominates Gamboa. I believe that if Tank would have been in better shape, Tank would have got rid of Gamboa a whole lot earlier than this welter. He should have got rid of him a whole lot earlier. There were points in the fight where it looked like Gamboa was ready to go, and he just didn't have it in his gas tank to put him away. Which speaks to his condition.
There are some X factors in that fight for Gamboa as well, such as the whole Hill thing and Achilles or whatever that came out. So I don't know. We definitely didn't get the best of Yuriorkis in that fight as well, but you know, for that reason, I'll be even more intrigued to see him against Haney, just to see if the Achilles is healed, if that's going to be a crutch again in this fight, or you know, if we're going to get to see a full activity Gamboa at least in a fight, because we didn't get that from him against Tank.
Fair enough. But we like who was the homeboy that stopped him, the journeyman? You know what I mean? It's just this isn't the Gamboa that if you beat a few years ago when Crawford beat him, that really impressed me. Like, wow, that changed the way I saw Crawford moving forward. Beating Gamboa is not going to change the way I think about Haney right now. I need to see Haney fight somebody with you know a Rolly. Yo, I would love to see him fight Rolly.
I mean, let me get your opinion on this. I mean, Gamboa, two-time Olympic medalist, two-division world champion. Do we get Gamboa at least to get Devin Haney to have to go in this bag and show us something? Like, do you feel like Gamboa has even that in him?
I can't say that I do because I haven't seen it, bro, in his last few fights. You know what I mean? I just can't. I haven't seen it. I don't. He looks like to me, and I don't say this lightly, and I don't say it with disrespect. He looks like maybe he's at that point in his career where he could be what you call a shot fighter.
Okay, I got you.
You feel me? And I could be wrong because again, he did last 12 rounds with Tank. But in my opinion, that speaks more to where Tank was conditioning wise than what Gamboa was able to do in the ring. You feel me?
Yeah, I got you. I definitely got you. I honestly just want to see Haney had to go in his bag. You know what I'm saying? That's what I want Gamboa to push him at least to that, which I'm not honestly sure he can. As far as power, I don't know if Devin has the same kind of power as Tank. I really don't. I don't think there's a comparison in power actually. So
No.
I mean, we might be able to get a lot more rounds.
But it'll be a more steady beating. You know what I mean? Tank was winded, man, and he was winging some shots in there too. So with Devin, I think Devin will put more of a boxing clinic, catching with him clean, hard punches, man, that he don't see coming. And definitely, I don't know. It's a fight that I'll watch. Will it again make me change where I gauge Devin? Because I don't know about you, I still consider Devin a prospect because I don't feel that his title is anything but fraudulent. That's just my opinion. I know other people disagree with me, but that's my opinion.
Yeah, he definitely hasn't earned it yet. You know, he's, you know, people could say he's honestly the weak link at 135 as far as the champions right now, just because he hasn't proven it yet against anybody. But he says nobody's giving him those opportunities either. So,
and I can't. I'm not disagreeing with that, but I don't think that this fight is going to change anybody's minds that might doubt Devin.
No, unless he stinks it up, you know, like he did in
that's the only way.
Yeah, that's the only way.
Right.
And, you know, we'll get a good chance to see what he's looking like after that shoulder surgery. So, I mean, that's another reason I'd be looking forward to seeing this, just for that.
Okay. Moving on, there was some news came out of Top Rank that what was Gilberto Ramirez had left Top Rank. I guess his contract had expired and he decided not to sign back with them. This isn't anything new for Top Rank. Now, Ramirez is a guy that a lot of people feel should already be one of the guys that you're talking about pound for pound, but to me, it always feels with him like he's a fight or two away from that because of the competition that he's faced. What do you think? Do you think this is a good move for him to get away from Top Rank? And what do you think he would need to do to get into that pound for pound discussion?
Okay, so I mean, I guess it's a twofold answer for me. I don't necessarily feel like it was the best decision for him. But it might be wise because look who else is looming at 175 on that Top Rank roster. You know, you got my boy Arthur Bitterbeef, you know, the beast. You know, so I mean, I could understand it for that. He could get better matchup, could get another matchup, DAZN against Vergil, which I think is probably a better matchup for him compared against Arthur. I also think, well, I'm not sure considering the pandemic what Ramirez was thinking. If he was thinking he might be able to get a big contract with one of these other promoters. But I mean, there was really only two options for him, either re-signing with Top Rank or DAZN, you know. He's already obligated to be a mandatory challenger for the WBO belt, which I believe, I'm not sure if it's vacant or not right now.
The WBO is vacant. Canelo vacated it.
Okay, and you know Ramirez is actually, you know, because he was a 168 champ at 168, he's obligated to fight for that belt, you know, moving up. So we'll see him with another strap, you know, soon. I just think
throw him in there with Kovalev.
I don't know if Kovalev would even be ranked for it right now after losing. Like he might need a fight or two to get ranking. But I definitely see the as far as what he was thinking, I think Vergil would be a better matchup as far as unification in the future. So leaving Top Rank wasn't necessarily bad for him. Hopefully he gets compensated the way he's expecting, which, you know, he doesn't necessarily have a big name, but, you know, DAZN is looking for anybody and all champions to come to their roster. So, I mean, it might be a good fit for him. But, I mean, I definitely think it takes away from his visibility not being on Top Rank.
Agreed. All right. So we'll move on from there. Earlier this week, I came across something I found quite odd. You had sent it to me when I was at work, and it was a boxing scene article. And when I was at work, all I read was the headliner where it said De La Hoya on fighting Canelo. I'll never back down from anybody. We'll have to wait and see. And at first I was like, what the hell? Because when do you ever hear promoters talk about fighting as fucking fighters, bro? Like, you know what I mean? I ain't never heard Dana White talk about I'm gonna beat fucking Connor's ass. Me and Connor can go in there and have a go. You feel me? So I wasn't sure what to make of it. Then when I got back and I actually sit down and read the article a little bit, it seemed more to me that Oscar was just answering a question, but still, that's just an unusual thing for somebody to ask a promoter. Will you fight your own fighter? What did you make of the statement? Do you think he was throwing shade, or was he just answering a question?
I think it was a little bit of both. Definitely poking the bear with Canelo, considering their relationship right now. Oscar, he's been around the promotion game long enough to know he can't. He got to be more PC than that. So I definitely don't like him going on record with that statement, even though the question was asked. You know, he definitely could have worded it differently. You know, but that's kind of his own fault as far as putting himself out in the limelight again, talking about making a comeback. You know, so I mean, he kind of asked for this kind of thing, and you know, whatever blowback he gets from it is kind of well deserved, because he probably shouldn't have even answered the question.
I agree. It was just unusual because, again, I can't think of another time a promoter's been actually asked about, well, would you fight your own fighter that you're promoting? And then the promoter actually come back with, you know, why I ain't never been scared of nobody. You know, we'll wait and see. No, this is play pretend here and say that Oscar was to come out of retirement. Do you see that fight going beyond 3 rounds?
No. I mean, you know, considering the shape, Oscar might be able to go a good 3 or 4. You know, considering, you know what I'm saying? But not at this age, man. You know, Canelo still wins it. You know, maybe in Oscar's prime. You know, even though 160, you know, wasn't his premier weight or his best weight. You know, he's better at lower weights. So I mean, I'd probably give him 3, 4 rounds max.
I have to agree. I think Canelo hits him with one of the body shots that Bernard caught him with having pooping on himself almost. All right, so let's just remove Canelo from the equation, because the Golden Boy has stated that if he's coming back, according to him, he's going to fight a contender. Do you actually believe that? Could you see him fighting a contender? Because I know Charlo threw his name out there.
No, I can't see it happening. I mean, it's all cannon fodder as far as Oscar talking. I don't think he wants to see none of these young bulls in there at 154, especially because they have a personal thing against them, considering they were given title shots against Canelo when they were signed to Golden Boy. So I mean, I think they would take it personally and try and whoop his ass even more.
I totally agree. I don't think we'll see the Golden Boy. We don't think we'll see Oscar fighting any top contender. I could see them maybe throwing out a journeyman. I believe a fight that would be interesting would be Sergio Martinez coming back from that knee injury. Huh?
That'd definitely be a good one. I'd be intrigued in seeing that.
Yeah, I'd like to see that because they've both been away. So according to Sergio, that knee is great, and to me, that's what really ended his career the way that it ended, was because of the knee injury. He just wasn't the same fighter, not especially when you're that athletic and everything you do is based off your athleticism. Of course, that's going to affect you. But all right, Twine, man, that's going to be our show. I want to thank everybody who's tuned in. And everybody that supported us throughout all our time here. Again, I did speak through text with Junior Lopez. He did confirm rescheduling the interview that we were supposed to have yesterday for tomorrow. Don't know the time. It'll just end up whenever I go live. Junior will be on the show. So that's when the show will happen. It is what it is. But he will. Junior Willis did say he would be on the show at some point tomorrow. Twine, is there anything you want to say as we close out?
I mean, you did a good job of everything, but you know, basically just repeating the same thing. Thanks everybody for tuning in and continuing to support us. We got a lot more coming up, and more boxing to come. So we'll definitely be able to, we've been kind of lackluster on news and fights, recently, but it seems like all of that is coming to an end now. So just stick around and stay tuned for what we got coming, y'all.
100. All right, and we out, bro.
Vendetta Beats Production.
Tyson Platinum Beat Producer.
Malachi, this guy is so scared that he goes, listen how ridiculous this guy is. He goes to Kobe locker room, because I saw him. Kobe's locker room was right next to ours. He goes in there and takes pictures with this guy. And his son told me that he was going to knock my son out. That's ridiculous, bro.